What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist back at it again with those 40 facts on the Warhammer 40K universe. But these 40 facts are going to be about my personal legion, the Celestial Sons. So if you guys have been following the journey of the 11th Legion, the Celestial Sons, you have known that I did do psychic powers already for them, but those psychic powers were for 7th edition. With the new edition upon us, it is time to rework the psychic abilities of the Celestial Sons and bring you the updated rules and abilities for the 11th Legion. So without further ado, guys, let's dive into the psychic powers of this Legion. With so many psychers amongst the ranks of the 11th Legion, the Celestial Sons combine the deadly energy of the warp to further strengthen the destructive capabilities of fire and lightning. These librarians can sear flesh from their foes with a mere thought, or vastly improve their speed of their reflexes. This is all thanks to the Celestium Discipline, which was created by Alec Elric, their Primarch, after he realized that his psychers had an affinity towards elemental warp energies, those energies being Pyromancy and Fulmination. So like I said, their powers originated back in 7th edition, so let's go over them just to give you a recap, and then we'll talk about their newly updated rules. So beginning with Solar Lightning. So Solar Lightning was a Flamer template attack. That was a pretty standard Flamer attack. It was just like an extra ability, you know, nothing too crazy. But again, templates are no more, so that ability is kind of redundant. Next up, we have Force Channeling. So Force Channeling gave the unit force, which basically meant if that attack went through and it did damage, they're basically dead. Kind of like a Mortal Wound, but back in 7th edition, if that makes sense. They also had Gravity Crush. So Gravity Crush was essentially a grav gun attack, but it used the blast template for the range and abilities. Next up was the Solar Flash. So this ability was basically used to lower initiative and eliminate night fighting. As of right now, I don't think night fighting exists, and there's no initiative anymore, so another redundant ability. We have the Lance of Light, which was a lance weapon, you know, that kind of thing. I'm not sure if lance weapons exist anymore too, so that may also be very outdated. And then we have Celestial Alignment, which basically just gave a unit the ability to reroll their 2-hit or their 2-wound rolls. And lastly, we come across one of my favorite abilities, the Solar Bolt Orbs. In my opinion, this was really OP. I don't even know why I made it a thing. So basically, it gave the Psyker a powerful attack, and they could also regenerate wounds back. So it was very OP, because if you got it off, you're basically coming back to full health and you're seriously, critically injuring something else. So yeah, that was my 7th edition psychic powers. So now that we're shifting gears towards 8th, I really wanted it to be balanced, and I thought, what better way than to make the Celestial Sons use the rule set for the Blood Angels, because in my opinion, the Blood Angels are probably the closest thing to any other codex that my Celestial Sons kind of adhere to. They're very much good against like assaults and that kind of thing. So I thought, yeah, besides just going with regular vanilla Marines, let's do the Blood Angels. So let's begin with Quickening. So Quickening is known as Godspeed for the Celestial Sons. And basically what that is that the Librarian channels his psychic might and the fearsome powers of the Immaterium to summon forth an aura of flame and lightning, which raises his speed and reflexes to astonishing heights. Lord Commander Sol Oros gained his nickname, the Golden Sun, due to his aura appearing gold when he activated his signature ability. Next up, we have Unleash Rage, which is called Celestial Solar Flare. So the Psyker of the 11th Legion has channeled the intensity of the sun's rays, thus blinding and disorienting their enemies, giving them an opportunity to counterattack and basically come out on top against the enemy. So this was a really cool ability. Unleash Rage, as we all know, makes the Blood Angels angrier. But the way I'm using it for the Celestial Sons, that they're basically doing a solar flare from Dragon Ball Z, and they're capitalizing on blinding their opponent. Number 3 is Shield of Sanguinius, one of my favorite psychic powers, and I'm calling it the Cinder Doma. So the Librarian of the Celestial Sons summons forth the ashes of the defeated enemies of the Suns, thus shielding himself and his brothers from harm. Now this ability looks really cool in my mind. It's like, yeah, Shield of Sanguinius, it's basically a energy dome protecting him. But I thought, what if the Librarian summons forth the ashes of the dead into a swirling vortex of a protective sphere? That looks really badass. But anyway, let's continue on. The next psychic power is Blood Boil, or otherwise known as the Burning Bolt for my Celestial Sons. A thunderbolt crashes from the heavens, electrifying the enemy until their flesh burns and only ash remains. The more warp energy used, the bigger the radius for death becomes. So this ability, it's not that great, at least so far in my opinion. I've used Blood Boil a couple times during my games, and I think I'd rather just use Smite. Smite generally does more damage than it. So, I don't know, I maybe not be using Blood Boil, or the Burning Bolt for that matter, but we'll see, we'll see. Next up is the Blood Lance, or the Lance of Light. So the Librarian conjures a mighty lance of white lightning. Hefting the Empiric projectile, the Astartes hurls it towards the enemy ranks, impaling them and electrocuting them all at once. Now this looks really badass. I wanted Dante Hueco to be wielding this spear of lightning, and I think he looks cool doing it. Now when he turns to Chaos, that's when it's going to get crazy, because he is a Warpsmith when he does turn to Chaos, and he's also got a Demon Blade. So imagine all those tendrils, plus lightning, plus a Demon Blade. This guy is a force to be reckoned with. But enough about that, let's continue on with the psychic powers. And finally we come to Wings of Sanguinius, which is probably my favorite out of all the Blood Angel psychic abilities. And what I'm calling it for my Celestial Sons is Wings of Stardust. Shining wings of psychic energy manifest from the Librarian's back, giving him the ability to soar across the battlefield. So yeah, pretty simple. It does make my Librarian, or Librarian Dreadnoughts for that matter, able to fly, move 12 inches, and they can re-roll their advance, I believe. So that's pretty awesome. And yeah, so, another psychic power that I didn't really get to. I should have called it first. But anyway, we're talking about Smite. Smite will work the exact same way, except that little twist that makes it my own is that Celestial Sons Librarian can harness celestial energy in the form of electrified flaming orbs. These psychic spears explode with lethal force, thus annihilating any enemy in their path. So again, usually Smite, from what I've seen, is lightning coming out, but since my Celestial Sons already have other lightning-based attacks, why not combine fire and lightning into orbs? That's pretty cool in my opinion. But yeah. Now before I finish this snippet into the psychic abilities of the Celestial Sons, I do want to cover Varos. So Varos the Dawn's Lance was a character sent to me by Tyler James Thurman, I believe was his name. Really awesome guy, great dude, and he came up with the concept for Varos. I really liked his story so much so that I actually got Varos commissioned, and this is the image you see here. Now the painter for this guy is Jedi Art Trick. He did an amazing job with the art, and so this is a little snippet that has to deal with his psychic powers. So as of right now, we're talking about Varos in 30K timeline. So this was before his fall to Chaos and ascension into a Demon Prince of Khorne. So Varos the Dawn's Lance. As Varos saw his captain being hacked to death by a mob of orcs, he unleashed a massive flame-based psychic attack called the Nova Flame. This inferno reduced the orc horde to mere bones, but it left Dawn's Lance, Varos, in a comatose state. So I may be including psychic abilities that are specific to special characters. So for example, if you're playing a Celestial Sun army, and you have Varos as your warlord, his psychic powers would be stuck with the Nova Flame. I'm not 100% sure what power to use as the Nova Flame. I think I may just wait till they come up with another supplement similar to the Angels of Death, where they introduce like Geomancy, Fulmination, that kind of thing, to see what type of pyrokinetic abilities match his Nova Flame. But if you guys have any better recommendations for me, let me know. And yeah, that pretty much concludes this video. I do want to say special thanks to Matt Guy. He was the guy behind a lot of the images that you see here for the psychic powers, as well as Blaze Barros on DeviantArt. He did a lot of this awesome artwork that you see here. And both of these guys will be credited and linked in the description below. So check them out if you want to see more of their artwork or maybe get commissions from them. So yeah guys, that's pretty much all I have to talk about for the psychic powers. If you guys have any information for me, as if, so for example, if you guys think of a better name, such as maybe Cinder Dome doesn't make sense, maybe you want it to be called the Ashen Pillar or the Wall of Ash, something like that, let me know and we'll go from there. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And yeah, as always guys, don't forget we do have a playlist on the Celestial Suns, so you can start from the beginning and make their way all the way to the almost the end of their timeline. I do have a lot of information on them, so there's a lot of videos to look at. I will post those at the end so you guys can hit on that playlist and check them out. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Don't forget, we do have a Facebook page and a Patreon page, so check those out for more things 40K. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. This has been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you then.